understanding format is important, okay? Not necessarily because everything you do is going to be in format. Now, in terms of writing, in terms of format, when I'm talking about how a script looks, dialogue, where the character names go in that, yes, because that's sort of the language you're communicating the material in. But when we're talking about format in terms of when, say, story structure, an inciting incident happens, when the characters are introduced, how much exposition, when reversals come in the story, etc. You need to know this stuff, but you may just stomp all over those ideas and do something else. Okay? The example that I use is in the mid-1970s, a group of people in Harlem and to a certain extent in the Bronx started to do this thing which later became rap music, which is probably one of the most commercially successful forms of music in the world. Okay? Prior to the 1970s, there was no such thing. Okay? And these people took basically LPs and were taking samples of music that already existed and then putting spoken word over it in a live setting. Okay, basically at DJ events, at parties, etc. Just using microphones. A lot of it wasn't recorded. Now, arguably at the same time in England, Deborah Harry was doing some of the same kinds of stuff. Early recording rappers had picked up on it, whether they had been on the scene in Harlem or in London at that time. It's all arguable. Lots of different documentaries track it differently. But one way or the other, they took something that had really never been done. The only time anything like that had ever been done was if you went back to the 50s, sometimes jazz musicians would lay down jazz tracks and have beat poets read poetry over the top of it. So Jack Kerouac and some of these people did stuff with famous jazz musicians like Thelonious Monk and Charlie Parker, people like that. Other than that, nobody had ever done anything like that. Nobody had done spoken word stuff. None of that had ever really come out into popular music. All of a sudden, these stuff done it 10, 15, 20 years later, it's the biggest thing ever. But they didn't invent the way to record music. They didn't reinvent, they did reinvent maybe the way you combined existing music with new music, okay, by using LPs that already existed or cassette tapes that already existed and then recording tracks over the top of it. But they didn't invent the LP, okay, and they didn't invent the recording studio. Now later, they reinvented the structure of the way who owned the recording studio and whether the artist was going to own it or whether the record company was going to own it, because some of these people became more powerful than the record companies and realized they could make the money the record company was making and have the independence. So that changed. But initially, they went into the format, okay? Into the form that already existed. And then they started to break it out. If I said to you, I'm going to give you $1,000 to paint a picture, what's the first question that comes to your mind?
First question?
Question. I say I'm going to give you $1,000. Any question come to your mind?
I want more.
You want more. How can I make $2,000? Good for you. You're a Bridgewater State University student. I love it. That's my girl. Okay. How much for $2,000? Well, what else? What else comes to your mind? Anybody?
What do you want?
What kind of picture? What do I want? Huh? What's it for? What else?
Where's the paint?
Huh?
Where's the paint?
Where's the paint? Where's the stuff? Where do you want it? Where's it going? Right? What style? What if I'm just crazy rich and I just got $1,000 I want to throw at you? You know? That's possible too. But right away, even as the most creative artists, we want to sort of frame it somehow. Right? We want to know, where is this going? What's the purpose for it? What's my audience? Okay? So that's really all we're doing right now. We don't want to trash or so form your story so that it becomes completely different. Kelsey? I know you guys, what are you talking about anyway? Come on. gotta be more
I was
interesting
just
than that.
saying, because you know how like there's like that shooting thing or whatever about the RCC, there's like, they're causing like a scene with like some fire truck or something.
Oh, like it's gonna be the big fire truck thing over here, cause the guy, somebody called in, right?
Yeah, so
He
they
said it was a guy.
I'm gonna bring a gun into like the RCC.
Let's take a break. Let's, yeah,